This is a film called Zeitgeist Exposed. It's an argument to a film named Zeitgeist. That film was split into 3 different parts. This film only argues with the first part. Amongst other claims, the first part of that film suggested, as fact, that Jesus Christ is nothing more than an astrological myth. And in fact, he's not the sun, but rather the sun. Those claims aren't just foolish, but they're unacceptable. Welcome to Zeitgeist Exposed.
Who's for Yahweh? Who's for Yahweh? Raise your hands and salute to Yahweh. And you get there by Yeshua. If you're ready there, then bless you. Go to Yahweh, so for Yahweh. Throw your hands up above for Yahweh. And you get there by Yeshua. If you're ready there, then bless you.
Part 1 of Zeitgeist is titled The Greatest Story Ever Told. Ironically, it begins with an animation that tells a story of evolution. We all know the story of evolution because we was taught it as children, and that really was the best time to teach it to us because we was just too young to see through 2 very shrewd deceptions. Let's have a look at the first one. Each layer in the earth represents a different time period. Just for argument's sake, we'll say each one is 1,000,000 years. How can we prove it? Simply by the fossils we find in each layer. Scientists know that that particular fossil is 3 million years old, so the layer it was found in must also be 3 million years old. Simple basic stuff. But if we ask the scientists how they actually know the fossil is 3 million years old, they'll tell us they can tell by the layer it was found in. So they know how old the layer is by the fossil, and they know how old the fossil is by the layer.
Fossil in the layer and layer and fossil in the layer and layer and fossil in the layer and layer and layer and layer and layer and fossil in the layer.
The figure 3 million was strategically plucked out of thin air and put into your minds in order to rope you into deception number 2, which is the infamous missing link. Most people have been led to believe that the missing link is the intermediate species between apes and man. In actual fact, it's the intermediate link between all of the species. There is no evidence whatsoever that one animal can slowly turn into another. They like to claim that they've recently discovered this and recently discovered that, but it's all a big fat lie. But why would they? The answer is simply because they rely on government funding. And I don't just mean rely on it for research costs, I mean rely on it to live. Stomachs demand food, landlords demand rent, the list goes on. But wouldn't it be a little bit difficult if evolutionists found out that the people who came up with the story in the first place didn't actually believe it themselves? We're talking about Erasmus Darwin and James Watt, amongst others. These men were from the Lunar Society, which was founded in England in 1765. These men were not atheists at all. In fact, like any other high-ranked Mason, they pledged allegiance to Lucifer. Now, the source for most of that information is Ian T. Taylor. Now, you know the Masons control the world's economy, you know they control the drugs and alcohol and nicotine, you know they control pornography and paedophilia, they control religion, they control the media, and they control education. They abuse these powers and they lie over and over again. And if you think they don't do the same with science, then you must be a fool. So evolution was a story invented by high-class occultists to undermine your belief in God so that you could be controlled by mass sales of drugs and drink and pornography. You can sell a lot more of that stuff outside of church than you can in. In order to control a nation, you have to create chaos, otherwise they've got no reason to vote for you and do as you tell them.
See, journalists are not there to inform the public. They're there to direct opinion in the desired direction. They are manipulated to manipulate everyone else. Very few are real journalists. They are little more than copy typists for the manipulators, turning round news of engineered events to push the public on. And most of them don't know they're doing it. Some of the more intelligent ones know they're doing it, but can't see a way out of the structure they're stuck with. There's a guy called John Swainton, a long-time editor of the New York Times, who worked in this situation for a long, long time, and then when it came to his retirement dinner, he spoke to his staff in terms that spoke the truth that he'd been holding within himself to preserve his job up to that point. What he said to his staff was this: there is no such thing as a free press. You know it and I know it. There's not one of you who would dare to write his honest opinions. The business of a journalist is to destroy truth, to lie outright, to pervert, to vilify, to fawn at the feet of mammon, and to sell himself, his country and his race for his daily bread. This is the important bit. We are tools, vassals of rich men behind the scenes. We are jumping jacks. They pull the strings, we dance. Our talents, our possibilities and our lives are the property of these men. We are intellectual prostitutes.
Three primates and a human. Remember, three men and a baby, three primates and a human. You have the human, chimp, gorilla, orangutan. And you know, you always hear this from the other side. It's always so much the same. It's so much DNA, so much the same. Geez, there's just a little step from them to us. Surely we evolved from them. Surely we did. But you know, we're an awful lot like a mouse too. Awful lot like a rabbit. But we are a lot like other primates. What's the difference? Well, you know, it looks pretty much the same, doesn't it? But there is a difference. They all have 48 chromosomes, and we have 46. Remember, we lost the 2 chromosomes somehow, some way. But guess what? That's an awful lot of DNA. That's an awful lot. How could we be even as close as we are, and we're wildly different from them, but how could we even be as close as we are if we lost 2 whole chromosomes? Guess what? This is the big secret they don't tell you. We didn't lose them. We didn't lose those 2 chromosomes. Guess what? Guess what? Next slide. Somebody fused them. The second one, somebody took number 2 and number 3 on the primates, and in us, fused it together.
Now we're going to go back and look at the original Zeitgeist movie, which is the one I'm arguing against. Here's another clip from it.
Because I got to tell you the truth, folks. I got to tell you the truth. When it comes to bullshit, big time, major league bullshit, you have to stand in awe of the all-time champion of false promises and exaggerated claims, religion. Think about it. Religion has actually convinced people that there's an invisible man living in the sky who watches everything you do every minute of every day. And the invisible man has a special list of 10 things he does not want you to do. And if you do any of these 10 things, he has a special place full of fire and smoke and burning and torture and anguish where he will send you to live and suffer and burn and choke and scream and cry forever and ever till the end of time. But he loves you. He loves you and he needs money. He always needs money. He's all powerful, all perfect, all knowing, and all wise. Somehow just can't handle money. Religion takes in billions of dollars. They pay no taxes, and they always need a little more. Now, you talk about a good bullshit story. Holy shit.
Now I must admit, that was a funny joke and it did make me smile, but let's cover some serious issues. Religion raking in billions of dollars shouldn't be a shock to anyone. Every single object you can hold in your hand is probably earning someone millions or billions. That's nothing to do with God, that's men. God doesn't abuse religion, men do. Now that doesn't prove that religion was or wasn't invented, but it does prove that it was molested. And that's all I've got to say about money. So let's talk about hell. Consider this next statement. The idea, a God who hasn't even got the guts to show his face is going to come down here and burn us all up. It's not just ridiculous, but it's mentally sick. Now consider this question. Now, as far as I know, Christianity is the only religion that threatens us with hell. But if you don't believe in Christianity, then that threat becomes a joke. But it's not a very long-lasting joke, because what I'm about to show you next might just change the way you treat Christianity for the rest of your life.
But he was on the ship, apparently, and the midshipman comes in and said, Lord Nelson, there is a French ship off the starboard bow. He says, sound general quarters, give me my red waistcoat. So he sound general quarters, he gets on his red waistcoat, and they engage the French ship and sink it, and it was a good day. A few days later, midshipman comes in and said, Lord Nelson, there are 2 French ships off the starboard quarter. Sound general quarters, get my red waistcoat. So again, they sound general quarters, puts on his red waistcoat, they engage these 2 French ships and sink them. And midshipman comes in the next morning and says, Lord Nelson, sir, request permission to ask a question. He says, granted, son, that's the way you learn. He says, I notice every time we go into general quarters, you always wear your red waistcoat. Why is that, sir? So, well, that's a good question, son. You see, in case I should sustain a hit during the battle, I don't want the crew distracted or dismayed because of the loss of the sight of blood. So the kid nodded knowingly, and that was interesting. A few days later, he comes in and he says, Lord Nelson, Napoleon's entire fleet is on the horizon. He said, sound general quarters, give me my brown breeches.
There's a tradition that says the Bible was written by a group of Jewish rabbis that hungered for world control. Let's look at 3 different ways the Bible was constructed to see if that's actually possible. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew. The Hebrew alphabet has 22 letters, and each letter has its own unique number. And the word number is a great place to start. This is the Hebrew word for number. These are the numbers that belong to each letter. This is the total of those numbers. And now we count that many chapters into the book. So we start at Genesis 1, and by the time we've gotten to the 345th chapter, we land at 1 Chronicles 7. And we find the word number. Let's try the word make. This is the Hebrew. These are the numbers. This is the total. We count 76 chapters from Genesis 1. And we land at Exodus 26. We take the word God, we add it up, we land at Genesis 31, and you say, but the word God must be all over the Bible, and you'd be right. So let's try the word Lord. Hebrew, Numbers, total, Exodus 15, and there you go. Here's the word children. Hebrew, Numbers, total, Numbers 13, and there you go. We've got a little problem with the word all, because it's not the only word that adds up to 50. The word mourn also adds up to 50. So which one of these 2 words are we going to find? The word cast down, or throw down, adds up to 160. The word image also adds up to 160, and so does the word silver. Are we going to find all 3? Here's the number of Satan, 359. It lands us at 1 Chronicles 21. So 359 is the number of Satan. Can you guess what the 359th day of the year is? So that's the infinity code, and it carries right on into the New Testament. If you're educated, that's an eyebrow raiser. Now, I've only showed you 11 words, but there's possibly thousands or more. No one knows the limit yet. You've obviously been sitting there thinking that this silly code only proves that the Bible was in fact dreamed up. So let's make things a little bit more difficult for these dreamers and look at code 2. Before we do though, bear this in mind. The Bible is 66 different books written by 40 different people over a period of 4,000 years, roughly. None of those writers knew each other, and they certainly never knew that their works would one day finally be packaged into one book. For the next code, I'm going to show you just 2 numbers. I could go from 1 to 1,000. Let's start with the number 3. Let's compare Jeremiah 33:3 and Ezekiel 33:33.
Call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things, which thou knowest not. And when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come. Then shall they know that a prophet hath been among them.
Now let's try Job 33:3 and Job 33:33.
My word shall be of the uprightness of my heart. My lips shall utter knowledge clearly. If not, hearken unto me, hold thy peace, and I shall teach thee wisdom.
Are we not seeing a link between the number 33 and the word knowledge? John 3:33 and Deuteronomy 33:3.
He that hath received his testimony hath said to his seal that God is true. Yea, he loved the people. All his saints are in thy hand. And they sat down at thy feet. Everyone shall receive of thy words.
Jeremiah 32:33 and Isaiah 33:6.
I taught them, rising up early teaching them, yet they have not hearkened to receive instruction. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times.
Psalm 13:3.
Consider and hear me, O Lord, my God, lighten mine eyes.
Numbers 33:3.
And they departed from Ramesses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month. On the morrow, after the Passover, the children of Israel went out with an high hand in the sight of all the Egyptians.
The word sight appears 333 times in the Bible. Jesus was 33 when he died, healing the blind as he went. Does the word sight not tie in with knowledge and wisdom? If we go 333 chapters into the book, we land at Isaiah 38:3.
Remember now, O Lord, I beseech thee, how I have walked before thee in truth, and with a perfect heart, and have done that which is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept sore.
Hezekiah is mentioned 33 times in the Bible. Genesis 13:14.
Lift up now thine eyes, and look from the place where thou art, northward and southward and eastward and westward.
Note the 4 directions. I can show you a lot more than this, but let's look at the number 11. The words we're associating are confusion and disorder. So Mark 4:11.
And he said unto them, Unto you it is given to know the mystery of the kingdom of God, but unto them that are without, all these things are done in parables.
Genesis 11:9.
Therefore is the name of it called Bab-el.
Bab means doorway or gate, El means God.
Because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth.
Matthew 28:16.
Then the 11 disciples went away into Galilee, into a mountain where Jesus had appointed them. And when they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted.
Mark 16:14.
Afterward he appeared unto the 11, as they sat at meat, and upbraided them with their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they believed not them which had seen him after he was risen.
Luke 24:9-11.
And returned from the sepulchre, and told all these things unto the 11, and to all the rest. And the word seemed to them as idle tales.
Acts 2:14-15.
But Peter, standing up with the 11, lifted up his voice. For these are not drunken as ye suppose.
He's not talking about alcohol there. Isaiah 28:11.
For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people.
2 Thessalonians 2:11.
And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion.
And that's it for number 11. But remember, this is not even a handful that I'm showing you. There's so much more, I just haven't got the time. By the way, the number 7 is impossibly networked throughout the whole Bible. And when I say impossibly, I mean you couldn't achieve it if you had 1,000,000 computers working on it. But let's look at code 3. I've saved the best till last.